Solly's. A buddy of mine rode his Harley in there one night to get a drink. One night I packed a barmaid out there on my shoulder. To laughs and cheers, it was a good time. Next one up is Mr. Toteff. He's fished Kodiak all his life, as did his dad before him. Come on up, Jim. It's your time.
There's one way on earth to judge a man's worth, and it's standing alone at the rail of a ship under sail, being slammed by a gale, and holding her steady at heel. When the tall sails are shaking and the green water breaking over the decks in a race, with the bow pitching high and the salt spray afly, stinging as it washes your face. Though dripping and cold, you're cut from the mold of the legions of seafaring men, that whatever it takes, they will never forsake and will never, oh yes, never throw in. With unfettered ambitions, they held true the traditions of the ones who were rovers before them. God, the chances they took, Christopher Columbus and Cook, in search of the land we now live in. They took their depart with nary a chart, their trust in the sun and the stars. With a bow pointed west, they pressed on, crest to crest, without aid of sounder or radar. And each passing day, be it blue sky or gray, the lure of adventure was their yearning. Through snow squalls and gales, they blazed their own trails. There was a fire in their soul that was burning. They fought off disease while traversing the seas, be it rickets, typhus, or scurvy. With their strength sometimes drained, they never complained, proving once more they were worthy. We must cherish them dear, these men without fear, for adventure all comes at a cost. While they searched for the new, the devil took his due, and many a brave seaman was lost. So hoist your yards high and aim down the sky. Don't cower and tack toward the lee. Take pride in your ship, keep tradition in grip, and never say whoa in a hard heave. My grandfather started gill netting the Columbia River in 1912. Fished his whole life. His son, my father, was a commercial fisherman his whole life, starting on the Columbia River, migrating to Alaska, Kodiak. I started fishing as just a little shit. Learned to mend from my grandpa. And I got my first commercial fishing license when I was 14 years old. My wife Rhoda and me just completed our 54th year seining in Kodiak. We've had 3 purse seiners built in Seattle, and all of them graced with my wife's name, Rhoda Jeanne. And probably the proudest thing of my whole career that I can say, you know, it's hard to be married when you're married to a fisherman. But we are very soon to celebrate our 47th wedding anniversary. How about that? If the wind is howling and the barometer low, you better stay in, you better not go. When the breakers are pounding onto the rocks, the kind of day to walk the docks. Driving snow, a big squall ahead, these are the days you'd better not tread. To leave in a gale, a foolish mistake. There are days to fish and days to cut bait. Boats are all anchored, waiting out a blow. The past several days, the fishing was slow. Fish are not running, the catches are poor. This not the news that you're waiting for. Go grab a needle and a spool of twine. Mend up the seine when just killing time. Get out the crib board. Play crib with a mate. There are days to fish and days to cut bait. Fish price is low, diesel is high. Every day you go out and try. Jellyfish stinging, every day the wind gusting. 90 gallons a day, the main is combusting. You make 10 sets while bouncing all day. To make it scratch fishing, there's no other way. So add up the crew shares and then calculate. There are days to fish and you got it. The crew are all sleeping, the net on the stern. You've been jogging since midnight to get the first turn. Not much excitement when you're staring at black. You wish it was you that was still in the sack. When daylight rolls around and you make that first set, just another Michael Jordan, nothing but net. Now tired and cold, but mostly irate, there are days to fish and some say when it's raining, the fishing is better. So maybe the fish like the water wetter. When the sky is blue and the wind from the west, quite often it's then that the fishing is best. The last of the ebb is my favorite time, when all of them sockeye are waiting in line. But when salmon are jumping, do not hesitate. These are the days to fish and not to cut bait. I never was much at poetry when I was a kid, but somewhere along the way, somebody gave me a book of Robert Service. Anybody here ever hear of Robert Service or Jack London? Man, those guys are heavyweights. A lot of my writing is kind of in Robert Service style, but here's one that's titled A Visit from Robert. I like a good rhyme set in rhythm and time with a moral or story to tell. Robert Service delivers. I still get the shivers when reading the Yukon spell. Though in heaven he is, his legacy lives through those colorful tales he told. He had his own way of shaping the clay. God made him, then threw out the mold. If just for short term, old Robert could return and spend a summer at sea and write us some rhymes of Kodiak times and his travels on the Rhoda with me. Though the gold's all been got, there's fish still not caught. Although different, the game is the same. He'd write of the chases and tell of new faces, of people and places renamed. Like the miserable day we pounded our way with a 10-foot swell on our bow. Going down the west side, we were bucking the tide. 5 knots we were making somehow. Oh, the wind, it was screaming like the wail of a demon. Then a shivering, quivering screech. From a willy-waz blast, we held on tight-assed as we inched down 7 Mile Beach. The clouds whizzed by down a tormented sky as Rocky Point we claimed. Then we breathed a sigh as we crept on by. Cape Uyak, now we aimed. We were taking a beating, though meetin' and greetin', each crest and valley in stride. The winning hand and the Rhoda Gian were ladies bursting with pride. Now landfolk don't know what it's like in a blow, with the sea a churnin' and foam. A life is so small when the waves are so tall, and you're far from the comforts of home. Now as Carlick gets near, it's the Cape we must steer, though it's Tanglefoot's lee that we yearn. We'll be happy to say that we're over halfway when Cape Carlick is viewed off our stern. As we slowly pass Sturgeon, a dream starts emerging of dog salmon ghosts from the past, now sacredly guarded by bureaucrats retarded. The biologist can kiss my... Now the tide finally turned, and shortly we learned the wind was starting to die. We passed Tombstone Rock at 7 o'clock. Up ahead lay a clear blue sky. Round the corner from Gurney was the end of our journey. We would anchor in Bumble Bay. Though the crew had all slept, a secret I kept, it wasn't that bad of a day. Now, if we asked Rob what he thought of our job, as we had no fish delivery today, would he have liked the ride going down the west side? I think this is what he would say. Now I quote the best verse from Spell of the Yukon. There's gold, and it's haunting and haunting. It's luring us on as of old. Yet it isn't the gold we are wanting so much as finding the gold. Well, I told you this was our last year. We quit, we sold out, we're done, we're finished. So here's one I wrote called Winding Down. Or Ode to the Rhodegian, our final singer. This was the year we just up and quit. Left the old girl tied to the dock. We'll let them young bucks chase the big hit. No more pounding or punching the clock. To rain gear and boots, I said a goodbye. Cold fingers and feet, nevermore. No more wet clothes to dry or jellyfish in the eye. No more, copy that, Roger, Roger, 10-4. I'll let them fish live to swim another day. Turn away and never look back. No more drizzle or wind or dreary drab gray. No more jogging and staring at black. No more lies to tell, no dirty socks to smell. No more hunting jumpers at dawn's early light. No more mosquitoes to swat, cursing a stove that won't get hot. No more dragging anchor in the middle of the night. I fought the good fight and never left slack. I picked anchor in the dark without fail. Set my own course, never ran with the pack. It was time for this old salt to bail. So I said farewell to my old loyal friend. We've sailed the salt for over 25 years. Oh, for the good times and places we've been. But what's that dripping I feel? Salty tears. Thank you. Now that I have retired, I view things through focused eyes, sped through life like a 50-yard dash. To my youth, I've said my goodbyes. So many are the trophies I have on the shelf. The grandest is my beautiful wife. 5 children she's gave me while running our race. I thank the Lord for our blessed life. But soon the race will be over. Never know when that day will arrive. Through these old focus eyes, I see clear as a bell. I've been the luckiest man alive. But how will I be remembered? I wonder how I might die. Ironic the notion that I'll never know. On my passing, will anyone cry? The echo of tomorrow lingers. Every day the sound rings clear. Yet the thought of dying is not scary. It's the dying that I fear. Now, time marches on eternal. It won't mildew, fade, or rust. And all things living and mortal will one day turn to dust. But I want to leave a mark here. And yes, I'm a mortal man. 'Twill be my grandkids for whom I cherish that will be my footprints in the sand. Kodiak men. Got two of them sitting right over there. They can relate with this. You've heard of the tales of Gloucester men who sailed in search of cod, fearless salts since way back when, whose only fear was God. With pomp and swagger they returned from the sea, with holds heaped heavy with fish. Their blood dripped red, their souls were free, a life that any young lad could wish. Ah, but let me now state firmly a fact. There's a legion of men I think tougher. They hail from the island of Kodiak and fish weather that's a damn sight rougher. Their ships are all rigged to weather the strife that the Gulf of Alaska is sire. Conviction and courage their driver of life, and deckloads of fish their desire. With 10-foot seas and 40-knot wind, at the mainland capes they tread. This is the mark of Kodiak men in search of the Chignik red. From Chillicothe Strait's huge tides and stiff wind, to the ice-choked Bering Sea, to the Albatross bank where the halibut swim, has been the path for me. But soon I must yield to the sand and the glass, for the young bucks all have what I've lost. I'm stuck in my old ways as I've watched the years pass, but the journey was well worth the cost. It's been a good life, and I fought the good fight. No, I'll never give in to submission. I'm just glad I was part of, and I sleep well at night, knowing Kodiak men will keep up the tradition. Come spring of the year, in a stream far away, they emerge from out of the gravel. And of the ones that survive that first day, many thousands of miles they'll travel. 5,000 eggs some mothers will lay. Across oceans her children will roam. Hardships and danger each step of the way. Only 4 will make it back home. On the day they are hatched, their journey begins, competing with sisters and brothers. Swimming back to their birth stream, their lives will end, and they'll become fathers and mothers. They'll range the oceans in search of food. Death will hunt them each day. Survival needs luck, as each day they've pursued by predators searching for prey. On storm-tossed seas and wanderless tide, unknown what lurks each tomorrow. To forage or linger, or lay low and hide. If eaten, there'll be no tears, no sorrow. Sea lions, seals, and birds take a toll, and dams author many an obituary. But all of these forces man can control. Are we salmon's friend or adversary? So what is the worth of the trials they endure, the salmon that God has given? I'll tell you one thing, and I know this for sure. They've blessed families like mine a good living. I wrote this one as a song, but I don't sing good anymore, so I'm just going to read it as a poem. It's called Airplanes and Sat Phones. There's a lot of fishermen, seiners, like in Kodiak, that come in new to the game. They don't know squat about fishing, but they read the fisheries reports from Fish and Game. They know what boats catch fish, and so there's some people that have a big bullseye across their boat, and well, I'm blessed, and I thank God that I was one of them, but I've always cussed the sat phones and the airplanes. So here's one that's called Airplanes and Sat Phones. Airplanes will find you, they search far and wide. I'll stand on my oath that there's no place to hide. While searching for salmon, I'm always at home, but with airplanes and sat phones, you're never alone. I can run to the east side or Alatac Bay, can travel by moonlight or try sneaking by day. And if good fortune befriends me and I'm hauling fish in, someone will find me, then call up a friend. A lesson to heed if you're making it pay, not a sound from your mouth should you ever convey. 'cause scanners are searching with a mind of their own. If they hear you, they'll blab with their satellite phone. Yeah, airplanes and sat phones are my enemy. A sideband and a CB are always good enough for me. My eyes weren't the greatest, but they learned to spot fish. Get rid of the airplanes, go find your own damn fish. With airplanes and sat phones, you're always pursued. No slack when they find you, you're gonna get screwed. No help, only headaches. No joy, only pain. Those sat phones and airplanes drive me insane. But before I'm finished and cash in my chips, I want all those boat chasers with their telephone lips to shout through the airwaves on their telephone, for 47 years, Jim traveled alone. Thank you.